disappear so as not to have my face be seen.
Yeah. And any weird thing I jump off, then you guys have the questions, but I'll try and jump right back on. We should be fine. We do have a storm rolling through in an hour or so.
Okay.
Okay. We're live now.
Awesome.
And I let the two people that were waiting in. So Crystal and Lisa. Hi, welcome.
Is it a dust storm?
No, it's a rainstorm. I'm in Florida.
Oh, I thought you're still in Lubbock.
No, I've been actually here since March. I'm not going back. I'm moving Danny there next month.
Oh.
But yeah, rainstorm.
Oh.
I'm in Arizona right now, and I woke up at 4 o'clock. I was like, this is not okay. It's really supposed to be like 6 in San Antonio time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that messes. I had my advisor is from Arizona, and so she went back there. So I was in Florida, she was in Arizona, and like then I'd screw up the times and the meetings, and I've been doing these interviews. I'm like, you need to think about that, like consciously. No, I'm an hour ahead.
Yep.
Why are you in Arizona? Chilling?
So my brother got married on Saturday, and my mom was in town, and I was like, boy, I'll just go back to Arizona with you for a while. So I'm just gonna hang here for a bit.
I dig it.
And I have some clients here. I'm not doing it in person, but I have people here that I could meet up with.
Hey Jess, so you hyphenated? Is that what's up?
No, I just moved my last name to my middle name because I don't have one.
Oh. Okay.
And I'm using the whole thing. But technically it's not legal yet because I haven't gone down to Social Security office.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. I just want to make it harder for people.
Keep it interesting.
Daniela,
Yes.
when do you want me to start?
I don't we can give it one more minute and then we can start.
Okay. Just let me know when you want me to go, and then that'll pretty much dictate for the rest of whatever.
And then if you don't want to be on screen, Ryan, you can remove after you introduce, you can remove.
Yeah, I'll just drop my video. So.
Okay, perfect. Not that we don't want to see you, but.
I don't want to see me.
Zoom fatigue, man.
Yeah, it's a thing. I really don't want to have to be on any more meetings than I have to be. I mean, like,
yeah,
like in the office, it's really easy to get stuff done, but having to physically be present on meetings, like after meeting, it's not like impossible to get stuff done.
Yeah, right.
First Zoom.
Yeah.
Crystal says she likes seeing you, Ryan.
Who?
Crystal said that in the chat.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Crystal. I appreciate it.
Well, I think we can get started, just to be mindful of time.
Yeah, of course. Okay, well.
Wait,
hey,
wait
everybody.
1 second. I'm sorry.
Okay, never mind.
I forgot to record. I'm sorry. Press record. Yes.
She's doing her thing. Okay, are we good?
Yes.
All right, sweet. Okay, hey everybody. So thank you for joining us for our first session of day 3 of San Antonio Entrepreneurship Week. If this is your first session or experience with our community, welcome. We started San Antonio Entrepreneurship Week, I'm just gonna call it SAEW from now on, in 2016 to celebrate and inspire our community with local stories and perspectives of entrepreneurship. This year's theme is resilience. And before we begin our session together online, or hashtag together online, however you wanna do it, I quickly just wanna say a thank you to all of our sponsors, especially folks from the City of San Antonio, Lift Fund, Open Security, Trinity University, And then all of our partners that we work with, because without their support, we wouldn't be able to do any of what we're doing this year. Our theme, as I mentioned, is resilience because, well, right now the world's going through a lot of stuff and we all need to figure out how to overcome in one way or another. So today we're actually going to be starting with a special conversation moderated, not by me, luckily, but by Ashley Haas, who will then introduce our actual speakers. But I just want to say, if you have any questions, try to drop them in the chat. We have a team that's focusing on questions in both YouTube and Zoom. So no matter what you're watching it on, just drop them in and we'll do our best to bubble them to the top. And again, I hope you enjoy the rest of the week. If you have any feedback, we'll have an opportunity for you to share that with us towards the end of the survey. So thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Ashley.
Thanks, Ryan. Hi, everyone. It's great to meet you, see you virtually, have you listen to my voice. It's always very weird. My name's Ashley. I lived in San Antonio like a year and a half, or I guess 2 years ago at this point. I actually used to work at Launch SA. Right now I'm a third-year PhD student in marketing at Texas Tech University, and I'm trying to carve my research space in digital marketing. So that's what I've been focusing on primarily, mostly looking at user-generated content and all that good stuff. And then we have 3 panelists today. So we have Ryan, Marissa, and Jess, and I'm going to let them each introduce themselves and say who they are, where they're from, what they do, all that. So I can pass it over to whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first. So I'm Ryan Kelly, CEO of Pear Analytics. We're a digital marketing agency in San Antonio. Our focus is on measurement of marketing and analytics. But we also do paid search, SEO, website design development, and other kinds of advanced analytics. Prior to this, I was a mechanical engineer. That's kind of actually where I graduated from college in the East Coast. And then I got into marketing sort of by accident. So here I am.
I'll go ahead and go next. My name is Marissa La Rochelle, and I am from San Antonio. I am a YouTuber / influencer, and I also started my own company, 70 Pounds of Life Fitness, where I do online coaching that includes self-love and weight loss and fitness. I guess I should explain my YouTube channel is about my personal weight loss. It follows my weight loss journey from day 1 to currently, which I'm now 110 pounds down. Before that, I worked in the music industry, and YouTube was my side grind while I was touring with different bands. So this was all a complete accident for me, how I got to where I am now. I don't have any type of degrees in marketing. It's just kind of my experience and stumbling my way through YouTube University on how to grow my channel and my business. So that's me in a nutshell.
Hi, I'm Jess Elizarraz-Gradsky. I'm the Chief Engagement Officer for Dorchel Distilling and Brewing Company here in San Antonio, and I've been doing that for about 16 months, so still fairly new. I transferred over from journalism, so that's we're all kind of accidentally in marketing now, but yeah, it's a trend.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. It's always great, though. I think, especially you guys on this panel, this is a very diverse group. So I think we're going to get a lot of great insights from you all, from the backgrounds that you come from, everything going on to talking about kind of how to pivot, I guess, your marketing strategy through all the crazy times. But first, we'll start out. How do you think that the marketing in your field has advanced kind of in the past 5 years? So if anybody just wants to jump in.
I'll go ahead and jump in on my side. So for me personally, I've had my channel for almost 4 years now. And so I can speak from about 4 years ago. But YouTube has done a really great job of upping their analytics. And then also third-party companies like TubeBuddy have actually made learning about your audience much easier, from knowing who exactly is watching your videos, what they're watching, what they dislike. all of that good stuff. And then also when it goes between, when it comes to influencers and actual companies pairing up together, it's a lot more transparent now, because I feel like when I first started, companies were chasing after influencers that had a large following rather than taking note of what their actual engagement was. So now there is that transparency between the two, and companies know exactly what the engagement is with that influencer and whatever else they want to know, rather than just, oh, they have 300,000 followers, let's pay them money and put this ad up. And then it never gets really seen because they don't have anybody actually engaging or staying on and watching the content. So those are just a few things for me. And then also, so me having my own business now, my main source of marketing and way of getting clients is through YouTube and Instagram, right? So when I first started my YouTube channel, I could say, oh, by the way, I have this new program coming out at the beginning of my video and kind of advertise it there. But what I have noticed personally is that the way people are viewing content has evolved over the past few years. And if I were to do that at the beginning of a video right now, people are automatically going to take the bar and skip ahead and skip over that. So usually now what I have learned is that once I get to the meat and potatoes of my video, the actual reason why people are watching the video, right before I start talking about that, I'll throw it in really quick and really brief and just be like, if you guys want to know more, I put a link down below. So that has definitely changed. So moving that little ad or spotlight of what I want them to walk away from as far as like coming and working with me, I had to change that up a little bit.
Yeah, for me, and as an agency, we're always trying to sort of come up with and find the new tactics, if you will. And you know, once you find something that works, almost every single time, it's just a matter of time before everyone sort of figures it out and jumps on the same bandwagon. So then it becomes a very much a diluted tactic after a while. So you sort of have to just stay ahead of the curve. Like I'll give you an example, like schema code. You know, adding schema code to a website probably sounds fairly new to some people, especially on the business owner side. But on the agency side, like we've all been doing it for 3 years now. So if you don't have schema code, which is basically telling Google, it's like additional meta information about your website, about your business. And if you don't have that, like it can really kind of detriment what you look like in the search results. So if you're not doing that, like you're 3 years ago. But, you know, like we have to find things like that all the time to get an edge and get an advantage. And so it's constantly in that cycle, right?
I kind of think that's a really good example of what I've been trying to do with Dorchel in terms of catching them up to what they were missing out on. The guys both have, all three, but one of them is retired. So 2 of our founders still have daytime jobs, and you can't do social media and tracking where people are and where they're spending when you already have 40 plus hours that you do on the regular. So I've had to kind of build up this audience and see where are they going, how are they finding us. And for us, I think traditionally for them, they saw print media as the place, and obviously that's on the decline, but I don't think it's completely gone either. So when we do have big events, when those were still a thing, or big releases, I would still try to tap those reporters and those editors to make sure they knew what we were up to. Because at the end of the day, we're kind of just trying to tap everybody, right? Like what pocket of, it's interesting kind of going into a recession, what that will look like, but figuring out where the people that are spending money are hanging out and where they're getting their information. So my little win for myself this week and for the brand was that we finally broke 6,000 followers, which doesn't sound like a lot when you go to like the 300K folks, but we started this Instagram, or when I first took it over was 200 and nobody knew we were there. So just kind of trying to stay in front of people has been the biggest change, I think. Like, you have to dangle keys in front of folks constantly.
I would also add that what I see is companies pretty much lag behind whatever advancements are out there. So the overwhelming majority of clients that I see, they still don't do things like marketing automation, right? Like, that's something that's been out for a while. But normally, if I walk into a business, I mean, they don't have great CRMs. They're still working off of spreadsheets. They don't have email marketing at all. If they're capturing emails, that's a win. You know, they don't have email lists that you can use for audiences on Facebook. They don't have text message campaigns or even collect mobile numbers. And a lot of times their sites aren't even mobile friendly. So, you know, 8 out of 10 businesses, unless they're in a super competitive market, they're behind 3 to 5 years already on all that stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity for, you know, for us, right, collectively, to sort of, if we're helping those types of businesses, to go out and get them on these things, because they can benefit from them, right? You know, so just having some of these tools that they don't have.
Right. So kind of, I just want to ask a quick question about that. As a small business owner who maybe doesn't know that those tools are out there, I think that that's one problem, right? Is they don't know that those tools exist. But if I was constrained in my resources, whether it's time, money, whatever it may be, are there ways, I guess, for you to optimize your web page, or, I mean, learn about these strategies? I've learned a lot myself that, I mean, it's so much planning. All of it is planning. If you can have a good plan and have good content, you can kind of recycle parts of that later. But getting set up is initially, I think, so hard for small businesses. So could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, the setup part is, you're right. It's very difficult because there's a certain amount of investment involved with that, just to get everything you need, what I call the foundation, right? Like, nobody builds a house by standing up walls. No, they have to put a concrete foundation, right, before they can even start to think about where they're going to put walls. And so everybody wants to jump into where the walls go. And I'm like, wait a minute, we gotta have the foundation. Like, you guys don't even have analytics. You don't have Google Tag Manager. We're not tracking how many people watch videos. You know, because what I noticed is that we're kind of in this like microwave society. Everybody expects that click buy is what happens. And that's really not what happens, right? It's click, watch some stuff. You know, nobody really identifies themselves in the sales cycle till almost 70% of the way into it. So what are you measuring between 0 and 70% to see if that person's a really good prospect or not? And that's where, you know, it's our job to sort of educate the client on what they can do and what that kind of investment might look like. But also, everybody's very ROI focused. I know that's like a big, you know, everybody likes to lead with that and sort of conversations about what they should do and how to do it. But look, if you're not going to track even how you close a deal, there's no sense in talking about ROI. You know, if your deal closing process is non-existent, we can't track a sale back to what marketing effort it came from, there is no ROI. Like, it's a guess. So there's a lot of education that still needs to be done, but they have to kind of take that first step and want to be able to dive into that. It's not going to be an easy, let's get it up and running. I mean, it's a multi-year investment just to get this stuff up and running correctly.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you. Do you guys have anything else to say, Marissa and Jess? Okay, awesome. So then my next question is, for you to be in your industry, what type of marketing do you think makes you the most competitive in your industry? And all of you kind of touched on it a little bit in the last question, but I know we're talking a lot about digital too, but print media, what do you think is most important for your own strategy? And what do you see, I guess, in general, Ryan, as you're helping clients?
Really that they tie everything together. So if they're going to do traditional media, billboards, TV, whatever, you know, tie it back to something trackable. So we can use things like trackable phone numbers. We can use vanity URLs. If you guys have seen the Coda billboards all over San Antonio, you know, they had at one point in their billboards, there was URLs that you could go to And when you hit that URL, we knew that it came from that billboard, right? So just because there was a redirect that happened, and so anyway, we could track that. If you're going to spend money on stuff like traditional, then just make sure there's a way to track it, because again, if you don't know where leads and sales are coming from, you're going to have a hard time trying to pick and choose what channels you want to leave open and which ones you want to maybe not fund the next time.
Jess and Marissa, do you guys want to talk about your marketing strategy a little bit more?
I mean, I keep going back to our Instagram just because it put us in a different space. Previously, people didn't know what we did or how we brewed it or anything. So when we took over, it was the easiest tool. And when we talk about what can an owner do immediately, it was the easiest way for us to showcase who is doing it and how. And building, I go back to my storytelling roots, but building that connection between the people that are making it and the people that want to spend their money there. And so I was showing how Randy woke up at 5 a.m. to go brew, and we were posting right then and there. I was showing what our bartender did every Friday. I was showing, you know, Chris, especially with the pandemic, we've been having these happy hours every Wednesday. And the minute we stopped doing them, you could see a drop. So people still want to see face-to-face. They want to see who's making it. And I think that was our biggest thing for me to focus on, just showcasing who and why.
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, it's definitely, YouTube and Instagram is where I do most of my marketing. But one thing that I've kind of noticed is that if I'm throwing myself out at people with like 2 or 3 posts on Instagram a day, they're not really enjoying that. I think that their feeds are kind of overflowing. So I personally have scaled my Instagram use back just a little bit. And then going back to what Jess said about, being relatable, that is one of the main pillars of my brand, is being relatable and authentic. My entire brand is about my journey, and people relate to that. And there's been very, very, very vulnerable moments, like me crying in a bathtub in New York City that I posted on YouTube. So people see that and they connect to it. But as time has gone on, I feel like my subscribers have kind of not gotten bored, but they know my story if they've been there for a while. So now I've been focusing on sharing my clients' stories if they're comfortable with that, just to show that, there's people from all different walks of life, different ages, different races, different career paths, genders, and that they're all able to change their life, whether it be mindset or whether it be health and fitness. So just being authentic and having a story for people to relate to, that kind of draws them in. And that has been my primary way of marketing, is really just being authentic and creating a story that people connect to, and showing that it is realistic to make the changes that you want in your life with the proper guidance and the proper mindset. So definitely YouTube and Instagram, and being authentic and relatable has been a huge help.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, the content's really big, right? It's always such a big deal for everyone. And it's interesting. It's great, Jess, that you've grown from 2,000 to 6,000. But I've seen a lot of people, even one of my friends the other day was like, hey, look at this person who does like this life coaching work, and look at her following and stuff. It was interesting because I was looking on Instagram through her stuff just to see how it was. And she had a couple 100,000 followers, and then her engagement was much, much, much lower. And then for me as a person seeing that, I see, okay, that's probably not real. She probably has a lot of bots, or there's a lot of fake engagement, right? So doing it with great content, and then making sure it's organic. I know it's like such a tough process. And like Ryan said, this takes years, right? It's such a big investment, but it's important for you if you want to have that authentic group around you. Like Marissa said, I mean, it's just kind of the way that I've seen it going, just making really great content. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
I would say content is by far the number one biggest challenge in terms of marketing. You know, for an agency to create that kind of content, it's difficult, right? Like we've been talking a lot of B2C, but let's talk B2B for a second, right? You have a client who's in a very niche industry. I can't write content for them about whatever technology they've built or software or, right? So we've got to tap into, their subject matter experts that are in that company and somehow pull content out of them, right? And that's probably the hardest thing to do. But if you can achieve that, if you can accomplish that, right, and you can get that content out of them, then you can start to figure out how you want to use it, whether you want to create resources on the website, blog posts, how you're going to use social media in that, right? For B2B customers, it's probably not Instagram and Facebook. It's probably LinkedIn, maybe some ABM, account-based marketing tactics, in-mail tactics, right? But content is very hard. And, I think that having someone in the company that is in charge of the social posting and the voice and the storytelling is really important. It's very hard for an agency to reproduce that when we're not there in the, living it every day.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Do you guys have any other final thoughts on that question? Okay, cool. Let's see. And we talked about this again a little bit throughout, but what tools do you use to assist your process to be successful? Are there any tools? I know Ryan's like, all of them.
Which one?
I guess which ones have you used then that have made you the most successful, or maybe you like the most?
Well, I'm trying a new one now. We're about to potentially get into something called High Level. It is a kind of a full-blown platform. It's designed for agencies because we can white label it and do different things. But it's kind of like HubSpot, but it has a whole lot of extra features to it. So for instance, one thing you can do is you can have it respond to a lead. Let's say a lead comes through a form on the website, and on that lead form, you enter your mobile number. Well, almost immediately as you submit that form, we can have it send a voicemail to that person's phone. We can have it send a series of text messages over the next 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, right? So all those like automated things, we can even have it linked to a Facebook chat bot. So there's so many cool things that we can do to create these automated functions once a lead has been generated, so that we don't lose it. If you're a guy that has a business that does, I don't know, fence and decks or something like that, you're in the field. You don't have time to answer your phone and respond to the lead, right, as it's coming in at that moment. And the problem is, in that industry, with the home services industry, it's usually the guy whoever answers the phone gets the deal. So if you have a phone call and you don't respond to your voicemails till later that night, chances are you've lost that deal. So you're spending money on marketing to get leads that you don't respond to. And this is a systemic problem, like with not just like home service businesses, but like a lot of businesses who don't have this like really good process for responding to leads quickly. And so they just let them sit and then they sort of rot and die. So this tool really helps kind of fix that problem. And so we're, like I said, just getting started with it. So I can't speak to like performance or all that stuff, but I really been through a ton of demos. I know people that do have it, and I've kind of sat in with them and very impressed on everything that it can do.
Jess and Marissa, do you guys use any tools, like, I'm trying to think, just to schedule content or help you edit content, things like that? Can you speak to those?
I'm a sucker for Google Photos editing. It's just kind of been the easiest one, most appealing. I do use Later to schedule my content because, again, I think it's funny that Brian brought up HubSpot, because it's like, that's kind of what we all started with. And then there's just been this wave of others. And for me, HubSpot was always just kind of clunky. And so Later has been really easy to just drag, drop, and everything kind of has a space. And I know this is going out on Insta, this is going out on Twitter, this is going on Facebook. I don't mess around with like third party, like a Sprout type service. It's another investment when I'm the only one doing it. So it's kind of on me, but those are pretty useful if you want to know when and where people are spending their time. Otherwise, the guys already had MailChimp, and that was I didn't want to bring on another platform for them to not understand, because that one was already a big leap.
For
Yes.
me, I'm
Key
sorry, go ahead.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay. For me, I've been using Instagram Insights has been really helpful for me, knowing what content my followers are enjoying, the types of stories that they like. If I do a poll or a question, the subject matter of that, I really try and pay attention to that, because if it doesn't get a lot of engagement, then that's a signal to me that it's not doing anything for me and it's a waste of my time. And then I use Canva to help me create templates for my Instagram stories. So if I am opening up a new coaching program, I have a template that I go back to and use that's already set for me. It has my brand colors, all of that good stuff. And then other than that, as far as scheduling content, I don't like to, I have in my head and I have it written down in my phone, like what I need to hit in my calendar for each day of content, but I don't have anything that houses that content that is like pre-made or anything like that. I just post it as I go, besides Canva, where I have that template for things.
So Ryan, did you want to add to that?
I was just mentioning on the HubSpot, it's a little bit price for businesses. Can afford $2-3 grand a month for that. And the basic plan, it doesn't really come with a whole lot. So if you want things like just basic things, like being able to integrate your Facebook and Google ad campaigns, you got to jump up to the enterprise thing. They also buried their lead scoring functionality about a year ago. It's actually hard to find. There's HubSpot was kind of the leader when they came out with this stuff, 10 years ago. But now there's been so many other tools that have come out. SharpSpring's another good one that's actually very integratable with WordPress. I've looked at that pretty extensively. There's a lot of options out there that are really, under $500 a month or so that you can get that'll do so much for you, and can probably, be a direct result in either more leads or more sales for your business.
Okay, thank you. Speaking of, while I think of HubSpot, because we've talked about them, I've never used them as a CRM system. I haven't had a need to do that, but I make my students do their certifications, and I think all of their certifications are free right now. I referred to one of my friends who's looking into getting into content creating to do that. They have like these free trainings, I think, of course, trying to get you to really buy into their CRM system. And they're great trainings. I make my students do them because it's a certification that they can have on their resume to understand these processes a little bit more. So I think I shared that with Daniela before. I can share it again. And then if anyone's interested or listening, it's so weird because I can't see anyone, but if you guys are interested, then we can get that information to you. And they're like 4 to 8 hour courses, and you can listen to them, speed it up. I just took them all recently because if I make my students do it, I want to make sure that the content is good. And it was really good at high level, big picture of how to think about how to do things. So there are resources out there if you're just jumping on in, trying to figure out what the heck to do. But yeah, thank you guys. And thanks for reminding me of that. So then next I want to ask, and you've talked about this a little bit, Ryan, like kind of automation, and it's important to not lose your leads, but as the consumer journey is becoming more complex, how do you make sure that the interaction is kind of as human as possible with your followers, with your leads, with your customers, anything? Any thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, for me, responding to comments and engaging with my audience is extremely important. And I think that is why my channel grew as quickly as it did in the beginning stages, is because one, the topic is something that a lot of people were interested in, which was weight loss. And then two, I was responding back and engaging with them and showing that I was human and I cared and I was real. So engaging with your audience is super important, and it has really helped me get a lot of subscribers transition into actual paying clients. So that has been my number one thing. Even to this day, if I make a new post, like I'm sitting there waiting for comments to come in so I can just respond real quick.
To add to that, I feel like for us, it's been mostly tone. I came from a place where, like, so my career kind of has led me to it's so that messaging is easier for me. I can write for the 60 plus crowd. I can write for 18 to 40. I can write. So with the Express and then the Current, I was able to change what I write pretty freely. So for us at Dortschel, we want to maintain this like higher luxury brand, but also so full sentences, commas, periods, but also we're a casual bunch. So making sure that when people message, the response they're getting is going to be pretty casual and informal while still sticking with like grammar stuff. I mean, for me, really, it's been trying to make sure that tone is not too high or too low.
Yeah. For me, I like to make sure clients are always, they have some mechanism to retrieve reviews and that they do respond to them, positive and negative. Everyone seems to be so concerned about negative reviews, but I'm like, look, if you just respond to it, like no one really believes that you have a 5.0, like not one bad review. Like you got to have like some bad ones just to show you're kind of real anyway, but at least just respond to it, right? That's the thing that as consumers, I think we're looking for is how did you respond to the bad review that said nobody called me or somebody didn't do this or they left a mess when they did finish the job, or you know what I mean? Like I think that's important because reviews is another form of SEO. When you do a search for a brand, you're going to get a whole bunch of review sites, Glassdoor, right? So companies should be telling their employees, go into Glassdoor and leave a great review because that's what your customers are going to do when they do a search and they're trying to narrow down who they're going to pick. So maybe you're in the final consideration set. Now they're like researching you. Oh, well, this company has, doesn't have a great culture. They're 2.8 rating on Glassdoor. Everybody hates working there. That's going to reflect in maybe my service that I'm going to get. So I think all that's super important. And that's kind of like, if we're going to help you with SEO, it's almost one of the first things I'm going to look at is what does the brand look like when you research it?
Awesome. Anything else on that one? All good. Okay. So next I'm going to kind of shift to with the current situation when COVID hit and is still going on. What are you doing now with your marketing strategy? Has it shifted? Would you like to jump in, anybody, on that? How it's changed since this hit, I think early March, late February?
So we lost probably 20-25% of our revenue in April because everyone was scared to, basically they wanted to pause everything they were doing. They didn't want to spend any money on marketing. However, during that whole process, what we did discover is that there were a number of clients who needed some kind of curbside pickup option that they didn't have before. So now, like, we're sending out email and we're trying to call and we're marketing basically ourselves to offer clients a curbside pickup option through their website. So that, I even have a architectural moldings company, if you can imagine that. Like if you want to order fixtures for your bathroom, molding, like if you're building a new house, well, their contractors can do curbside pickup now. So, this, with the resurgence of COVID and everyone maybe going back into lockdown, we're going to have these options. So we've kind of made it a thing where I have a package that I can give you for curbside pickup for your website. So that's kind of what we did to switch a little bit of what we could do.
For me personally, with the whole COVID thing going on, people have much more time on their hands. At least they did when it was a stay-at-home order, right? People have a lot more time on their hands. They're working from home. They're consuming more content. So I have been able to put out much longer content than what I would have in the past. Usually I would keep my videos to the happy spot of like 10-15 minutes with a mid ad roll, some extra money right there. But now I'm able to put out content that's like 20 to 30 minutes long. And I'm noticing that the watch time, when I look at analytics, people are not clicking off. They're watching through the whole video. So that has been one thing for me. And then also, I've kind of focused in on body weight workouts because Ryan, you were talking about, you were trying to buy equipment, right, to get a workout in, and it was super expensive. Like the prices flew. So just taking my focus to, hey, you can still do these things, you can still get healthy, and you can do it with just your body and like outside or in your house. So focusing on that, just realizing what my audience is going through as I'm going through the same thing. Like there's no gyms open. I have more time to try new recipes. So focusing in on those things for them has been, I've noticed they've been really engaged on that type of content.
So for us, it's kind of bifold. You know, as a tasting room manufacturer, we were never fully closed. People could still come inside if they wanted to and pick up their booze. Did they do it? That's a whole other question. The way that I pivoted on social was, again, introducing those virtual happy hours so people would still remember, hey, there's people behind this brand, and we're, you know, your neighbors, your friends, you've told us about your life, so come hang out. And then I started doing a lot more video recipe kind of stuff, so that if people came by and picked up a bottle from either us or one of the liquor stores in town, they knew what to do with it at home. So a lot of empowering kind of recipe development that way. As things started to reopen, though, it has been kind of difficult to maintain that same speed of, you know, 2 videos a week and everything else. So I think, honestly, because we still aren't fully open with cocktails and beer, I might have to go back into that video building landscape and just figuring out more time. It's just been, I don't know, I'm like Marissa said, you're online more often. So we're basically having to not fight for eyeballs because the eyeballs are there, but do the eyeballs want to be marketed to? So that's been the hard one to navigate. Like, what tone do I take so that people aren't thinking, oh my God, they just want me to buy stuff? Like, we're still people at the end of the day, and we want to make sure that they get some of that. And it's been hard because my boss is really focused on ROI. So we've seen it happen where if I post something, within 30 minutes, people are buying it. So do we not post? And then it's been a lot of balancing for sure.
Any other thoughts? Okay, awesome. So then kind of rounding out, and I think it'll be different in the next 5 years, but also how do you think that marketing for your business is going to change in the next like 5 to 10 years?
So I wrote an article in some publication probably 5 years ago talking about the importance of analytics, and that was going to be the thing that made agencies stand out. So here we are 5 years later, and we still have tracking marketing issues, right? There's still companies spending a ton of money in marketing and can't really track it back to where it came from. You know, so I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, well, from my perspective, what's happening is that companies are now hiring people in-house to do the things that we normally do, which is fine. I mean, that kind of was the life cycle of what's going on, right? Like 5 years ago, or when I started this business, no one even knew what SEO was. And if you ask a business 5 years ago how to manage a Google ad account, they'd be lost. So 5 years forward to today, you can hire people coming out of DCI. You can hire people coming out of a school now that maybe have a digital marketing minor, and they have some experience with these things. So, what's going to start happening is agencies are going to have to sort of refocus. Instead of trying to, propose doing everything for a client, like turnkey, what we're going to have to be able to do is figure out how to share the workload. Figure out how to do some, let them do some of the heavy lifting, but maybe kind of be a second, third set of eyes, maybe provide strategy, maybe provide some auditing or oversight, right, for their younger team that maybe doesn't have 10, 15 years experience, but they've got 2 or 3 or 4. We can still help them. We can still kind of come alongside and guide this company so that they don't make a lot of those mistakes that they could be making if they didn't have quote unquote experts guiding the way. So, for us, we're seeing more of that now. So it's going to be difficult for us to just throw out proposals of say, hey, we can do everything for you from soup to nuts. That's not going to work. Like they're like, hey, we have some marketing team. What can they do? What can you do? Kind of thing. So it's going to be an adjustment for sure. But if you're prepared for it, like anything else, I think we'll be fine.
I think in the bar landscape, because Dorchel is confused as a bar, we're a tasting room, we're a manufacturer. But at the end of the day, people like to come over to have a cocktail, have our product, and just enjoy themselves. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to that's what I'm learning right now. How do you market to folks to make them feel comfortable enough to come spend their money with you when you have to wear a mask and you can't emote and you can't connect like you would normally? So we're straddling that line, and I feel like 5 to 10 years from now, maybe bar going is going to look differently. So figuring out how to make sure people feel comfortable and safe has got to be first priority. Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, we're seeing so many videos come out of places in Austin and Houston where COVID is spiking, and it feels wildly irresponsible. And that would be the last thing that I would want our brand to be associated with. Like at the end of the day, it's our customers who make it happen. So how do you pack a bar full of them and not care about them getting sick? That's kind of the puzzle we're trying to solve right now.
For me, my bread and butter definitely obviously has been social media, right? So for example, I kind of really missed out on an opportunity because I thought TikTok was going to die. I didn't think that it was going to continue being what it is now. So for me, definitely paying attention to new social media platforms that are coming up is going to be really important. And then obviously I'm trying to grow my audience, right? Because the more audience I have, the more potential clients I have coming in and actually working with me personally. So reaching out, and I've already started doing this over the past year, but reaching out to news outlets and third-party media companies. Like I just got a publication with Women's Health Magazine, which grew my audience very quickly. So just trying to do more of that and paying attention to the new social media platforms that are coming up and not just writing them off so quickly.
Yeah, I was gonna add that I've had to come up with 2 new things recently to kind of position ourselves for the next 5 years. And when I was talking about clients bringing on people full time to do the digital marketing, one of the things that we can help companies with is actually that hiring process. What I found is that companies don't understand how to hire digital marketers. What they're looking for is what I would call a Swiss Army knife. And like someone who knows SEO and Google and Facebook and TikTok, and you need you to do all these 50 things, and they don't, right? Like, or if they do, they're not real great at any of them. So, you know, they can't also afford to hire an expert, right, in every single thing either. So, you know, what we can at least help them with is to hire the right person and understand, like, we have a very extensive skill assessment and thing that we do in the hiring process. We do strengths finders, we do other kind of personality assessments like OAD or predictive index. So we can help them choose the right person for that role, right? And then the other thing we've done is we've created this sort of insurance product. So if you're already working with another agency, and maybe you're under contract for the next year or two, well, we can come and audit what they're doing, kind of like secretly, right? And we can kind of help you understand what they're doing and maybe what they're not doing, and at least give you some ammo so that you can push that relationship along, or maybe you decide it's just maybe you don't want to renew it. So it kind of was interesting because it creates a way for us to at least have a foot in the door, but also provides a valuable service. And so if you're spending, $30,000-$40,000 a month on advertising and marketing, like, to have an insurance policy behind that, it makes a lot of sense. So that's another thing that we're doing to help kind of offset some of these issues.
Right. Thank you. So my last question that I have for you all is, as someone who is in the field, I guess, of small business or small business owners, what marketing advice would you give someone starting, or what do you think is, like, I don't know, what is it, like the golden egg is that you wish that somebody told you a long time ago? And you're like, dang, I wish I knew that at the beginning. Is there anything that pops into your head?
Yeah, for me, I wish that somebody would have told me not to spread myself so thin, because for a while I was trying to do YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, like anything and everything. I was trying to do all of it, right? And I was trying to do new content for each platform. But in reality, the best thing to do is just to recycle your content. It's really easy to take a 15-minute video, take like 1 minute, chop it up into the most important clips for 1 minute, put it on Instagram, and then take it over to Facebook. And then another thing that I wish I would have known earlier on is that Facebook groups are amazing. That is where I get about 50% of my clients. So they find out about the Facebook. It's like a Facebook support group, right? So they find out from it, or they find out about it from my YouTube videos. They get into the support group. There's free content in there. There's free workouts. There's free recipes, stuff that they're interested in. And then also while they're there, they're engaging each other. So it's an actual like community. And I'm able to post up like, hey, I have 5 spots open for coaching, and they go like super quick. So I wish I knew all of those things. And then also, just as somebody who does YouTube and creates content, consistency is key. Like, that is my number one piece of advice for somebody who's wanting to get into that field.
Yeah, Facebook groups are genius, actually, because if you were just to kind of reach out to your audience organically, like, you wouldn't be in their feed. What is it, 1 or 2% gets in front of the feed organically? So then what do you have? You have to buy ads. So, but the Facebook groups is like kind of this very targeted group of people who will see everything that you say. So if you can just get into the group, right? Like, it's awesome.
And
So I've had clients who had amazing success with Facebook groups and didn't have to do advertising, and the organic stuff really wasn't moving the needle. It wasn't getting out. So that's a really good point. I like that.
I feel like, again, since I'm still pretty new to this side of things, I don't know. I feel like if I wanted a warning, it would have been, you're going to have to experiment a lot, and it's not going to be a reflection of what you're doing or your worth or anything of that sort. You're just having to play that game. And it's constantly experimenting and seeing what works. I think that would have been the only thing. A heads up would have been nice.
Yep. I tell people clients really to, if they don't have a big budget, that's fine, start small. But to your point, experimentation is key. If you're being a trailblazer in whatever industry you're in, then there's no data. I don't have anything to tell you what's going to work. So we have to experiment in, trial by fire kind of thing. So, track everything you're doing, start small, don't try to boil the ocean, and, experiment.
Awesome. Any other final thoughts or advice you'd like to give? Okay, cool. Right on. Good old Zoom. Oh, you look like you're thinking, Jess.
No.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I don't know, Ryan, Daniela, I'm assuming you're still there. We're a small group, so if you want to pop on your webcam and ask any questions, or if you want to pop them in the chat, if you don't want to go on or turn your mic, do whatever makes you happy. David, I see your comment. I'll talk to Ryan and Daniela and see if we can get a place or a list of tools and a place for you all. And yes, Lisa. Great point earlier. I know that happened. Definitely using the quote, "Don't try to boil the ocean." That's fair. Anybody have any questions? We have about a half an hour left. If you don't have any, that's cool. Ryan, Daniela, if you guys have any questions, that'd be cool too.
There's one thing that I do want to point out that has been very helpful for me, and that is collaborating with other people who are kind of in the same niche as me. And even if they're not, just talking to other people and figuring out, what has worked for them. And then, like we said, like testing it for yourself. So collaborating and surrounding yourself with like-minded people has been really helpful for me, because, someone thinks of something that I never even thought of, and it may not work like exactly the same, but for my company, but if I just like change it a little bit, it's golden. So collaborating and having a community to talk with about things.
Yeah. And speaking of communities and Facebook groups, I'm in a social media professors group where people are always posting resources like how to teach certain things, but then I see there's, I think, another females for digital marketing group that I used to be in. I think it's a paid one now. It was like $50 a year or something, and I was like, okay, this really isn't that important for me. But I feel like that there's a Facebook group for everything at this point. If you want to know how to drop an egg off a skyscraper, there's going to be a Facebook group for it. So you can definitely reach out or whatever, search through that. The launch team asked, how can people reach you guys? I can put my email in. I don't know how you guys feel. If you want to put your emails in, what would be easiest in the chat? Good question, launch team.
I want to also emphasize the point on strategy. I can't talk about it enough sometimes, but if you work in a company, or if you're the marketing person in a company, really identify what your strategy is going to be, because we had talked about the customer decision journey. It used to be awareness, consideration, purchase, right? It was this very linear thing. Now it looks like Candyland or Chutes and Ladders. I mean, it's like they're all over the place. They've got all these channels they can reach out to you and connect with you on. So, having a strategy is important. We can't have a bunch of tactics in search of a strategy, but we need to understand what the strategy is. And the strategy is based off what the objective of the business is. So if the business says we need to grow 20% next year, my question is, well, how are you going to do that? Because that's, are you expecting all of that to come from marketing? And if so, is that all going to be coming from paid search? I mean, because where is it going to come from? Right? So if you're trying to steal market share away from some other company that you're competing with, I mean, you have to have a clear strategy in how you're going to do that. Rather than just kind of throwing out marketing like I see a lot of times is shotgun approach of just throwing things at the wall, and if it sticks, great, and if it doesn't, well, that's just a waste of money. There's no real thought behind just doing that kind of approach. So strategy starts out with objective, then you have your strategy, then you have your tactics of what you're going to do to support the strategy. So put a dollar figure to it, have an investment. That's another thing. I don't talk about marketing in terms of expense. I talk about it in terms of investment. You know, if it's going to be an effort that we should be thinking about that leads directly to sales and or leads for the business, then marketing is growing the business. That's the purpose of it, right? So it's an investment.
Right. Yeah, and I would say as part of that too, so making sure, right, your objectives and strategy is important, but then following through. I think so many people that I've talked to get scared about the analytics are just a scary thing if you've never dealt with that before. And I think that there's so many tools out there now that can help you do that. But then at the same time, I mean, just kind of being organized and making sure, like, again, if you are looking at your content and you're seeing what content works the best for you, keeping tabs of that. Analytics doesn't have to be this like crazy thing where you're putting all these formulas in and, oh my God, that's really scary. It just needs to be you kind of thinking through these things and I guess using critical thinking to see, like I said, like what is working the best for you content wise, what's working the best for you with your email marketing. Did one of your emails, you like didn't use an image and that all bounced? I mean, you should probably be using an image anyway, but things like that, like you need to pick up on your own, which like I said, can kind of be scary at the beginning, but it's almost kind of like recognizing patterns.
Yeah. I had a question kind of linking to what Ryan was saying. I'm curious, where's the majority of your client base? And maybe, I guess Jess will be more like the following would be in San Antonio, but Marisa, like where you see your following, and then how does that translate into, like for Ryan, like the demographic or like the profile of your client? What does it look like in terms of percentages of the business spending in marketing? And then for you, Jess, since you know as you've been growing, has that increased? Like how much you spend on marketing and the different mediums that you use? I don't know if that makes sense or that's clear.
It does make sense. So Insta generally leans female, right? And Facebook leans female. The only marketing tool that we actually pay for is Untapped. And that is a completely different world. It is mostly male. It is a lot of people that we have to win over and make sure they know that we've been here for a while. We got it as an extension of our strategy. I don't put that much, not necessarily weight on it, but at a certain time, like Marisa said, you want to limit where your energy is going, so you're not burning at 19 ends. Like I focus on Facebook and Insta, and as of COVID, Twitter. But those are going to be kind of where I put all my eggs. How our audience, I'm sorry, Daniela, what was your question about growth?
I mean, I was just looking at, Ryan was mentioning like how people sometimes just throw money and think it's gonna like,
oh, right, yeah,
it can bring back. So as you grow, does that, like the percentage of that your percentage in like monetary or effort, does that increase, or it kind of just stays the same, you just get smarter at it? And like, I don't know how, like Marisa, like you started growing, or Jess, like you started growing the following, have you seen like you need to spend more money? Like a lot of people think marketing is just spending a lot of money and that like translates into something. And I think San Antonio is a particular market, so that's why I was like referencing Ryan in the terms of clients, like where are your clients, and does that change of how much resources you input and get back?
So for us at Dorchel, the only true marketing expense used to be and will continue to be in-person events. Any beer that's donated, any cups, ice, time, that's it. I don't bother with Facebook events. I'm sorry, with Facebook ads. I really don't care for it. I've seen how it's worked for publications in the past, and I don't think it moves the needle. I think you're literally just throwing money at something that isn't gonna show you much of a reward, but that's just me. And I've come close to it, don't get me wrong. Like I feel like sometimes I want to hit that, yes, let's boost it. But I have to remember, like, historically, for what I've seen, it just really doesn't move the needle.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
So the question about where we get clients from, they're really all over the country. We've even had some international clients. And the process is always the same. So what kind of investment you have to make depends heavily on who your target audience is and what you're selling. So we go through an exercise with them to understand, for example, lifetime value of the customer. So if you're selling something $100 a month and you expect on average that customer to be with you for 2 years or 24 months, that's $2,400 of lifetime value. So then we'll work into that. Okay, how much of that are you willing to spend to acquire a customer? So customer acquisition cost is a big deal. If they don't understand that or don't know what it is, then we help them kind of determine what's fair. So if you're selling products that have gross margin, then you work off of that. If you're selling a service that doesn't have a gross margin, then you work off of that. But you have to get down to what the cost per acquisition is before you can determine how much to spend in marketing. So on average, small businesses that are about $3 to $5 million will spend about 4% of their revenue on marketing. So if they don't want to tell me what their marketing budget is, I can kind of guess at where it should be and where they may be, and then come off of that. And then we'll go through this exercise through customer acquisition costs. And then I can actually get it down to, almost what a cost per lead should look like. So by the end of that meeting, we're all in agreement as to how much a customer should cost, but also how much a lead should cost. And if we're in agreement with those economics, then marketing and that budget is going to work for you. Now, sometimes we find, I had a gentleman come to talk to me once about selling water softeners. Now, water softeners is a really competitive thing in San Antonio. We have extremely hard water here. So the cost per click on water softener keywords is like $15 to $20 a click. So if you come to me and say, I got $1,000 budget, my response is, we're not going to really go anywhere with that. The cost to get the click alone is already $20. So if you get a let's say 5% click-through rate, and then from there you get a 10% conversion rate on your form, which is really high, we're already way over what your cost per acquisition should be. Because remember, a water softener that you sell for $2,000, well, they got to pay the sales guy, then they got to pay for the equipment. They really only have about $500 to play with to get that sale. And when those cost per clicks are $20 and your conversion rates are less than 5%, the math doesn't work out. So, you can actually do some, what I call back of the envelope calculations really quick and see if like marketing and your budget is actually going to work.
Yeah, for me, I'm kind of in a unique position because I haven't spent any money on marketing. I've done all of my own marketing with my social medias. And as far as my clients, where they're based, I believe it's about 35% of my clients are international, and then the rest are here in the States. And my demographic is absolutely female. I have like 2% male. But yeah, my clients are from all over the place, and I really haven't spent any money on marketing besides like my website and stuff like that.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah, I was like, what would you say to that, Ryan?
What's the so I look at like YouTube and subscribers, like where's the flywheel in that? Like where's the what am I trying to say? Like where does this start to take off? Where you actually make money? Like how many subscribers do you have to have in order for it to generate revenue on the ads?
Yeah, so that's more based on watch time.
Okay.
But I started making money when I hit, I'd say around the 15,000 subscriber mark is when I started making money. But of course, YouTube, they don't send you a paycheck until you've reached $500. And then they release that to you, and then they start paying you out monthly. So right now I'm at about, I believe, I don't even know off the top of my head, I think like 125,000 subscribers right now. So I have that nice little residual income coming from YouTube. And then I actually have stopped doing influencer marketing. I don't work with companies anymore, just because that's a personal choice for me. I don't want to be a show pony. And then also, I don't want to lose that authenticity with my viewers. I don't want them to feel like I'm just selling to them all the time. So that has been very important for me as well, is kind of stop doing that interaction with bigger companies. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. So are you planning on maybe rolling out your own product line to support what, like for what your subscribers can purchase from you directly?
Yes, absolutely.
People in the fitness space doing that, like they'll come out with their own brand of like supplements or gear or workout clothing or something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's something that I have really been digging into since the whole COVID happened. But I don't really do supplements. I'm all about natural weight loss. That's what I did personally. But I am looking into doing size inclusive workout gear. And also, I've been doing takeaway workout programs, like an 8-week program that they can take away, and it's like an easy sell for me, right? Like an easy $40. But yeah, I am working on clothing, size inclusive, and then also water bottles and stuff like that.
Cool.
Starting small and seeing how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, I have a random question for you, Ryan. I'm just curious, how did you get started down the path of having an analytic company or a digital marketing agency?
Yeah.
Oh, it's by accident. So when I graduated college as an engineer, I went to work for Pratt & Whitney. So I designed jet engines for the first 5 years out of college, and they moved me to San Antonio in 2001. So I've been here almost 20 years, but during that process, one thing led to another, and I actually joined a small boutique branding agency. It was called Blue Clover back then. And, we're all about branding and, really flashy looking websites. And that's where I really started to do SEO and learn how to do digital marketing. And so once I broke off of that, I just started Pair, and that's what I focused on. And since I'm very analytical, that was kind of a good fit for me, is to help clients understand how to track things, how to measure things. And SEO happened to be quite technical also. There's a lot of non-technical parts to it, but where I excel is the technical piece. So that just was a natural fit for me, and that grew into, what we are now since 2008.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just curious. I have a lot of students who I think they come with questions about how to get into digital marketing, even though it's such a huge, I think, like it's booming right now. A lot of times coming out of your undergrad degree, you kind of get pushed into the entry-level marketing position of sales, right? But I'm trying to tell people like, hey, there's this whole world out here. Yes. You can do other things.
So I'll ask students as well at Trinity. So I'll ask them, are you more on the more creative side, or do you like the scientific side? Because depending on which way you like, you can go into multiple, forms of digital marketing. But they kind of have to like the data part. If you want to be like 100% creative and you want to be a copywriter or a web designer or something like that, there's certainly a lot of opportunity there, although that's been sort of commoditized. I think that if you want to go down the path of analytics and tracking, it's not commoditized. That's where the brain value is. So, and that's where I think the value is in companies too. Big data. You guys see CodeUp launching like big data curriculums and all that stuff now. That's where everything's going. So the analytical piece of marketing is still a challenge for businesses. If you want to, earn your keep, I think it's about trying to figure out where your marketing is working and where it's not working.
Right. For sure. Oh, Ryan had a question. What's the most successful campaign you've done, and why do you think it worked? Nice one, Ryan.
For me, any campaign where I give out free content that people can actually use and they want to use. So whether it's a 7-day daily affirmation for self-love or mindset, or if it's a 14-day workout guide, because I noticed that once they get that free product, they want more after that. And especially with my products being reasonably priced, the takeaway products, that has always been very, very successful for me.
So I did something several years ago. Must have been 2010 or 11. But I wrote this study on Twitter. Twitter was very early because Twitter came out what, 07. So it's still very new, and people were like, why do I gotta have a Twitter account? I already got this other thing. I don't want to have another social media. That was still the question at the time. And so I did this analysis of like 2,000 tweets, and I posted it on our website, and I tweeted it out. And like by that afternoon, I don't know why it went viral, but by that afternoon, I was like interviewed by Robert Scoble. I was on the front page of the BBC. Like, I don't know. I couldn't understand why it was. I guess it was because I didn't have a very good opinion of what Twitter was at that point, and it was very sort of kind of struck a chord, I guess. But anyway, it was the only time I went viral like that, and since then I couldn't figure out how to do it again. So
I think from us, it's been mostly event-based campaigns. Part of my chief engagement officer title means executing these goofy events. And I think, sorry about that. I think when they've been the most successful, or how I gauge success, is whether I send anything out to traditional media and they pick it up on their own. So I'm like doing my thing, doing like my videos, my tweets, my posts, my video, like who's going to be there, and they pick it up on their own. They reach out and ask, well, what's, give me more info. I think that's been our most successful one. And I feel like it would have been our, both of our Mardi Gras celebrations, our ice cream event that usually happens in August that we may or may not have this year. And then our Oktoberfest one was interesting because we made the world's longest sausage, full uncooked link. And I think that drew an insane amount of people that had never been to us, and we sold, I don't know, like a ridiculous amount of beer, most ever sold for the day. So yeah.
Yeah, now you're like, how do I do that again? Like beat the sausage
during a pandemic.
And going back to content, one thing that I did just think of is whenever I'm making a piece of content, I'm always thinking like, ultimately, what do I want this to be? So whenever I go into making a piece of content, I always try and ask myself, okay, well, I want this to be shareable. Like this piece of content, the sole purpose of it is I want people to share it. So anytime I make a piece of content with that as the end goal, I always get payback on it, whether it's growing my audience or it's new clients. So shareable content for sure.
Yeah. I did a piece of content once for a company called SeatSmart, and they sell tickets to events. So one of the things that we were trying to do is grow the SEO exposure for that business, because it's basically overrun by Ticketmaster and all these big ticketing venues and whatnot. And these are like a little tiny team in San Antonio trying to make their name, right? So we started coming up with these blog posts, and what we did is we did these data-based blog posts. So like one of the most successful ones was we analyzed the lyrics of like the top, I guess it was top 10 songs at the time, and analyzed like how dumb they were. so it really had a lot of, like, CBS News was like, hey, can we use your data chart on this thing about lyric analysis? And we're like, yeah. So we watermarked all the graphics and everything. So I mean, that I really like the concept of data-based kind of content where you can have graphics to support, like the Washington Times does some really nice stuff, or not the Washington Times, the Post. And I've seen the New York Times do some really good editorials where they have beautiful graphics and they look awesome on mobile. I mean, that's the kind of stuff people share.
Yeah.
They want to reference, and you can get media to kind of reference that. So, I mean, the more you put into the content, the better result it's going to have.
Yeah. And if you can tap into anything that's trending at the moment as well, trending and shareable, it's the sweet spot.
Awesome. Ryan has another question. Insightful, Ryan Saltz. What do you think is the worst tactic or method that people use in your industry?
Gosh. Which, so many, trying to pick a good one.
For me, and I hope I don't sound like a mean girl when I say this, but when you're basically just copying other people's content and it's so noticeable. I see people who on their Instagram page, like their content is identical to another person's content, but it's just their face on the content, So for me, I think that is because people notice it. Subscribers and followers notice it, and they will leave a comment and they'll say something about it. So just being authentic and coming up with your own ideas. I mean, I understand we draw inspiration, but being inspired by content versus just flat out copying it is probably the worst thing that you could do.
I mean, as far as food and beverage, I'm not entirely sure. I think everybody does pretty solid work. I think, and this is like a weird answer, but influencer marketing isn't as regulated as it could be. And so when we have folks over, we try to share it and make sure that they try to like put, gifted or hosted or whatever. But what they do on their page is what they're going to do. So it's hard to know, like as far as restaurants go, when somebody's going because they like the food or because they were hosted and not disclosing it is the that's the worst tactic. There you go. Because it's like, is your food actually good or did you just invite people over for free food? Because that's awkward. And it's supposed to be, disclosed. So.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, the thing that gets under my skin the most is when I see how websites are built so crappily, like they're hard coded and they're so hard to manage, and they kind of handcuff the customer a little bit. So not only just with web stuff, but they also, in my industry, a lot of agencies will own the ad account that is being used to run the ads. So it's kind of a stronghold tactic that if you want to leave the agency, they use it as a way to kind of keep you because they won't give you the data. So there's a lot of these kind of tactics that go on that really aren't very customer friendly. I mean, I understand why they do it, but that's not how we play. When we set up an ad campaign, like I set it up under your account that you own and you pay for the ads. Like you don't pay me for ads. You pay Google, Facebook, whatever directly. We just charge you a fee to manage it all. So it's all about transparency and just keeping it top board, right? Because there's still agencies that will like basically take your money. Like you give them $5,000 a month. In reality, only like 1,500 of that's going to Google, right? So they're pocketing the other 3,500, but you don't know that. So there's kind of a lack of transparency in our world, and we try to do whatever we can to make it more visible and honest, and give them the out. So like if I'm just managing your AdWords account, you can kick me out. So that's how we handle it.
Yeah. So I guess one final question for the last couple of minutes. If someone was in your shoes, what do you think that they should be doing right now? Or if someone wanted to be in your shoes? But they can't take your shoes. So how can they?
So, I mean, I'll just take it as, because I get asked, it's my number one asked question is, how do I start a YouTube channel? Oh, puppy, how cute. Okay, squirrel. So how to start a YouTube channel. And I mentioned this before, but just being consistent. So if you say that you're going to post a video once every other week, post that video once every other week. And also don't spend your money on things that you don't actually need. When I started my YouTube channel, I had an old Android phone and I used like editing software that was on my computer already. So work within your means, stay consistent, and definitely put out content that people want to see. Don't put out what you think people want to see. So do your research.
I think that goes along with my answer, but case studies, like build your own case studies off of what other folks have been doing. And if you think somebody does something particularly well, really get into the nuts and bolts of it. Then obviously you're never going to see their like insights, analytics, like straight from the app, but you can tell when engagement is authentic and when people want to go somewhere. So doing that homework, I think, would be it.
You know, I would tell someone to really find something they can differentiate on. There's, you know, seems to be a million different digital agencies out there. And so for clients that they're kind of overwhelmed with who to pick and why. So just focus on your unique value proposition and make it super obvious and clear what makes you different than everybody else. Because otherwise you get lost in the sea of digital agencies. There's all different kinds, all different sizes. So find something to focus on.
Thank you, guys. Do you have any other final thoughts that you want to leave for people? No, all good. Want to look at the dog? I don't know, Ryan, other Ryan Saltz, if you're there right now, I don't know if you want to pop back on and close this out, or I can do it for you as an intern.
Yeah, absolutely. No sweat. I won't have you pick up your old mantle. Yeah. But yeah, so thank you all for participating with us for this session. I found it to be very insightful, and I'm thankful that you were willing to answer my questions at the end there, because I'm also trying to learn. But just for anybody else that is watching on either YouTube or in the stream, we're going to post the link to provide feedback. So if you have any feedback for us on this session or in general, we'd love to hear it. So we hope that you join us for the next session, which will be kicking off at around 3 p.m., which is going to be discussing the areas of resilience. But Ashley, Jess, Marissa, Ryan, I super appreciate you all taking the time out of your day and sharing your perspectives and wisdom with us today as well. So thank you all.
Cool, man.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll clap for you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, no sweat. All right.
Okay, well, take care, everyone.
Bye. Guys, thanks.
Nice to meet y'all.
You as well.
Meet you guys too.